Stand by, please.
Hello.
This is a nationwide radio survey. Were you listening to your radio just now?
No, I am not.
Were you listening to your radio just now?
Why, yes, I am.
To what program are you listening, please?
What program?
But there must be some law.
I am the law.
Why, I'm listening to the radio theater.
Of all the peoples of the world, the Americans stand most in fear of a moment's silence. For 82 out of every 100 U.S. citizens, radio provides each day in the year a sure and ever-present escape from their own lives into an ether universe of crackling news, music, costly entertainment, and romantic adventure. In recording U.S. listening habits, often strange and unpredictable, C.E. Hooper has made a profitable business of reporting the public's likes and dislikes to the industry and to the public itself. Hooper ratings, the findings of this nationwide poll, although their accuracy is sometimes questioned, are accepted as convenient yardsticks for sponsors, producers, and performers alike. The survey indicates that the public remains stolidly faithful to the same radio performers year after year. Outstanding example of U.S. listeners' loyalty is Jack Benny, among the first 15 since 1934. To 20 million Americans, listening to the Benny program is a Sunday evening ritual. Consistently high in the public favor, troopers Fibber, McGee, and Molly first brought their homespun humor to the air in 1927.
Sure, we'll attribute my air raid warden's helmet, Molly.
I wouldn't know where to look for it, dearie.
Oh, I know where it is. It's right here in the hall closet.
Oh, no, no.
I gotta straighten out that closet one of these days.
With Americans of all ages, quick-witted Bob Hope has built a solid reputation during the past 12 years as one of radio's top-ranking entertainers. The old comedy art of ventriloquism was brought to a new high level of popularity on the radio by Edgar Bergen, whose assistants, Charlie McCarthy and Mortimer Snerd, have by now overshadowed their creator as radio personalities.
How does the show look for Sunday, Bergen?
Well, I have part of the script here.
Yeah?
I'm explaining sound waves to you.
You are?
Now, when you throw a stone in a pool, what do you see going in all directions?
Frogs?
No. You saw waves.
Now, don't tell me what I saw. If they weren't frogs, I hope they're croaked.
You saw waves.
I not only saw frogs, but I eat them for dinner.
No. What do you think, Bill?
Well, we might tighten it up a little.
Yeah, tighten it up, yeah. And then throw it out.
The only commentator regularly rated in the top 15, Walter Winchell dispenses Broadway gossip, last-minute scoops, and his own highly charged personal opinions on the affairs of the world in a breathless mixture for Sunday night listeners. One of the most adult of the top favorites, veteran showman Fred Allen lampoons any subject, even radio itself.
Tell me, Mr. Moody, what are your feelings about the radio?
I don't hold with it, Bub.
Displeases you?
I don't hold with furniture that talks.
Well, you have a radio.
No, I had one in the hen house.
Yeah?
One day, all the hens' nests would be empty.
Uh-huh.
Next day, every nest would have 2 eggs into it.
You mean?
The hens was listening to Double or Nothing.
Yeah.
In furnishing the American public its listening fare, the 400 independent stations and the 1,000 network-affiliated stations alike are able to exist for only one reason, the advertising of commercial products. Spending an average $400 million yearly, American industry sponsors more than half of all U.S. radio programs. In putting any program on the air, it is difficult but still necessary to please many people.
Say, instead of that, why don't we have the closet door pushed shut by the cat?
The cat? The sponsor would never go for that. Don't you know he's allergic to cats? And dogs and canaries, for that matter.
Well, how about having the girlfriend stick around till midnight and accidentally push the door shut?
Till midnight? Don't be silly. The network wouldn't let us have the guy and his girl alone in the house that late at night. Why, they're not even engaged. I think you'll like our script for the new show, Mr. Dunham.
If you don't mind, I'd like to hear that commercial first.
Certainly, Mr. Dunham, with pleasure. Girls, will you give us the new commercial? And don't forget that tempo.
Consolidated sardines, America's delight. Have a rich, tangy flavor with plenty of bite. Consolidated sardines are packed twice as tight. So eat consolidated, can't beat consolidated. Treat your stomach right.
That sounds pretty good. But couldn't you work in the name of the product just a little more?
The sponsor exerts virtually complete control over what the public hears, having the power to select the program he wants, to pick the hour for the broadcast, and to eliminate whatever material he dislikes. Yet for every $2 the sponsor spends, the listening public spends $3 on radio sets, repairs, and electric current. And since the airways are considered public property, the Federal Communications Commission is charged with the responsibility of protecting the people's interests. The FCC has the authority to grant or refuse licenses for broadcasting stations, based mainly on available wavelengths. And each 3 years, every U.S. station must apply to the Commission for license renewal. But throughout its 13-year history, the FCC rejected renewal applications only 4 times, while flagrant cases of transgressions against good taste and program balance continued unchecked. Pointing out radio's failure to live up to its obligation to the public, an FCC report indicates that most U.S. stations heavily overload their airtime with commercials. Guilty of such excessive commercialism are the thousands of programs of recorded music, which consume the bulk of airtime on most small stations, and are often sponsored by as many as 15 different products in an hour's broadcast.
And now let me tell you about McTavish's Skinless Weenies. So long, so pink, so flavor-rich, with lots of tasty goodness. Ask for McTavish's in the giant economy tin at your favorite grocer's. Tonight or tomorrow, sure. Remember the name, McTavish. And now, friends, for our next number today, bring you a...
Depressed by radio's blatant commercialism and appalled by its listening fare is 74-year-old Dr. Lee DeForest, one of radio's inventors.
To the National Association of Broadcasters, New York City. Gentlemen, what have you done to my child, the radio broadcast? He was conceived as a potent instrumentality for culture, fine music, the uplifting of America's mass intelligence. You have debased this child, dressed him in rags of ragtime, tatters of jive and boogie-woogie.
While admitting that there is considerable need for improvement, the industry itself replies that it still sends the public many noteworthy programs, which are too often overlooked in the general criticism of radio. The broadcasters point proudly to their news programs, most popular of any type of radio presentation, allotted 20% of all time on the air. And no other country in the world gives its listeners such complete radio coverage of sports events.
tonight from New York City. What should we do about Germany now? Sound begins tonight!
As an example of radio's commendable features, the broadcasters refer to their discussion programs, where serious controversial subjects are openly debated before a nationwide audience.
First of all, however, Mr. Arnold, you're making me say something that I never dreamed of saying. You're saying that I'm trying under the old leadership to reestablish German industry. My God, I've been living under the Nazis so long that I think I'm a little more allergic to them than you are.
Judge Arnold wants to get in on this here. Judge Arnold?
I don't think, Mr. Lochner, that you realize that you're setting up Germany under the old leadership, but that's the tragedy of it. That is what you're doing.
The public, represented by the studio audience, can have an active voice in the discussion.
My question is directed to Mr. Shirer. Mr. Shirer, how can the world be assured of a peaceful Germany?
I think one of our principal problems now in handling the German question is to carry out ruthlessly and honestly our denazification policy.
The networks are proud that they have enabled radio pioneers like Norman Corwin to present experimental programs in new dramatic forms. The documentary technique has been applied effectively in offering striking broadcasts on subjects of widespread interest. Such documentary coverage from the Library of Congress permitted the public to hear a broadcast at the unsealing of a collection of Lincoln's papers by the foremost Lincoln scholars.
And Mr. Sandberg, in our specific problems of the present time, what do you think would have been Mr. Lincoln's policy and attitude?
We can speculate, guess, surmise on some one dominant quality. I'd say that if today he sat as a counselor of the United Nations, he'd stress above all the quality of patience. Under all shifts of events and changes of circumstance, patience.
Truly great musical talent is available to the U.S. public via radio. Although a relatively small percentage of listeners tune in on classical music, the networks have spent millions of dollars to present artists like Arturo Toscanini, who have been a considerable influence in improving America's musical taste. Among the most articulate of radio's critics is the New York Herald Tribune's John Crosby, whose thoughtful column reflects a tolerant concern for radio's future.
There are more violent extremes of good and bad in radio than any other popular art. The best of it is wonderful. The worst of it is moronic. The trouble is the bad programs outnumber the good ones about 20 to 1. So long as the advertiser runs the show, it'll always be that way. The broadcasters don't own their own souls. There's little hope for radio until they do. Oh, well. Radio's only 27 years old. If it doesn't improve within the next 27 years, it'll be time for all of us to get really angry.
Typical of entertainment which most critics of radio deplore, but the public enjoys, are the many types of audience participation shows.
Now, if you answer this question correctly, madam, you win $50, so try hard. Who was the father of our country?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Why, certainly. Who was the father of our country? What is the capital of the United States?
Washington?
Right. Give that lady those 50 crisp dollar bills.
High in the public favor are the elaborate clam bakes in which studio visitors, competing for expensive prizes, are encouraged to make fools of themselves.
Listen carefully for the animals now. Many queer sounds are heard on a farm. From the barn comes the sound of contented cows.
Moo!
Quite a while, Mrs. B. To herald the day in his usual way, you'll hear the old rooster say... You missed him. Still doing his best to outdo the rest, the shaggy old dog yelps. Not to be outdone when he sees the sun, the cute little duck goes... To top off the din, all the pigs chime in. Oink! And a clear miss. Well, Mrs. Granite, you failed to get him 4 out of 5 times. So, men, who is the better half of the Granites family? Congratulations, Mr. Granite. The title of the better half of the family goes to you, and along with it, that beautiful big radio-phonograph combination. And for being such a good sport, Mrs. Granite, we'd like you to accept this brand new electric washing machine.
Most criticized of any type of program on the air today is the soap opera, which eats up 48% of daylight airtime. To all critics, the radio industry replies that 20 million housewives can't be wrong.
Irene, that's the way it is.
But, John, how could you deceive me like this? Doesn't our marriage mean anything to you?
It's hard for me to say this, Irene, but Eleanor and I love each other.
You should know, Mrs. Black, that love matters more than anything else. Don't talk to me about love, you vampire.
Irene, we're but straws in the wind. I shall leave you two to talk this out.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Black. There's no use talking. You must give him up. You dare to talk to me like that, you love thief? Get out of my house. I don't give up this easily. And don't forget it.
Will Irene succeed in recapturing John's love? Will John go back to his job and return to his wife and children? For the answer to these human problems, listen in tomorrow, same time, same station.
Time marches on.
The march of time.
Just off Fifth Avenue, on a site long occupied by the old-fashioned town dwellings of the Rockefeller family, stands the spanking new home of a nationally important institution, the New York Museum of Modern Art. No dusty storehouse for old masters, this museum is an up-to-date showroom for art in our time. Painting and sculpture, architecture and still photography, and the motion picture. For more than 4 years, the director of the museum's film library, John Evans Abbott, and his curator, Iris Barry, have been gathering together a vast and significant collection of motion picture films, milestones in the progress of the youngest and liveliest of the arts. Here, preserved for all time, are old negatives, through which the people and the customs of an age long past will live forever. And in the museum's newly built vault is the accepted ancestor of today's vast movie industry. A 10-minute film, The Great Train Robbery, produced in 1903 for Thomas Edison, was man's first attempt to tell a connected story through his newly discovered medium, the motion picture. hardly 40 years after the great train robbery, the art of telling stories with camera and film has become the nation's fifth greatest industry, with a capital investment of $3 billion. And each production is a highly speculative venture, for its story, its direction, and its cast must please the ever-changing tastes of those who support the industry, an army of 250 million moviegoers. International capital of the motion picture is a fabulously press-agented suburb of Los Angeles, Hollywood, a community whose name alone is a magic word throughout the world. But in Hollywood, where 65% of all films are produced, the making of movies is a serious and complicated business. Among the movie industry's 30,000 employees are men and women from nearly 300 trades and professions. Nowhere in the world are there craftsmen who take more exacting care. For in the making of a picture, carelessness in one single detail can mar the combined work of the hundreds whose talents go toward the making of a scene. Today, big-time movie making requires weeks and months of tireless research and preparation before a camera turns a single foot of film. And a big slice of every Hollywood producer's budget must go for the studio sets, which serve as background and atmosphere for his story. For the great movie public, becoming more and more observant, demands scrupulous historical accuracy and strictest attention to minute details. Every studio has its own museum, immense warehouses crammed with furniture and fittings, props from every nation in the world, from every period in history. But for years, Hollywood producers have paid a quarter of their total production budget, more than $40 million a year, to the men and women who are their players. For upon the popularity of screen actors, many a producing company has built its fame and fortune. Today, the industry is more insistent than ever that its artists have something beside glamour, and it demands that they know how to play a scene, how to create a character. For with the movies no longer a novelty, but an accepted art, the cinema has a responsibility to the public, a responsibility that must be upheld with all the creative skill, the imagination, and resources at its command. Out of its collection of books and original documents on the movies, the largest library of its kind in the world, the Museum of Modern Art's film research staff is today compiling an encyclopedia of the cinema. Being added daily to this collection is important source material pertaining to a young art whose entire history has been made within a few decades. But far more vividly than in any printed book, the museum is already teaching the history of the movies to the public through its educational programs of important films of the past, today being widely circulated to U.S. colleges and museums. In New York City, the museum has its own theater, showing programs designed to trace the progress of the motion picture since the days of its crude beginnings. In 1896, the first moving pictures projected on public screens were plotless incidents, but a minute long, that amazed and scandalized their audiences. "16 years later, in 1912, the moving picture had begun to tell simple stories. In many of them, Mary Pickford was the heroine, Lionel Barrymore her leading man. By 1914, the screen had developed definite trends. The serial thriller and the western, which produced their greatest cowboy star in William S. Hart. same year, 1914, William Fox presented the world with the first great movie vamp, Vida Barra, whose exotic screen romances brought a nationwide storm of censorship. Throughout the early teens, winning friends for the struggling movie industry were Mack Sennett's Keystone comedies, built upon a surefire technique, the chase. In 1914, a famed stage actress, Marie Dressler, making her screen debut, had an obscure London comedian, Charles Chaplin, as her leading man in Mack Sennett's first feature-length comedy, Tilly's Punctured Romance. Almost overnight, the public discovered in this obscure London pantomimist a great artist, and made him the most popular and highly paid comedian the world has ever known. The year 1915 is one well marked in motion picture history, for it was in this year that David Wharf Griffith released his mighty spectacle, The Birth of a Nation. The most important single picture ever produced, it was the turning point at which the movies became established entertainment. Early in 1918, a young prestige seeker, Samuel Goldwyn, lured Mary Garden from the opera to play in his silent version of Thais. In 1921, Rex Ingram's Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse launched Rudolph Valentino, the greatest romantic idol of the screen's history, on his short and brilliant career. By 1922, comedian acrobat Douglas Fairbanks had given the elaborate costume spectacle a permanent place in motion pictures. Giving realism and dignity to the old-time Western, producer Jesse Lasky and director James Cruz started a new trend with their epic of the covered wagon. In 1925, with The Big Parade, produced by Irving Thalberg and directed by King Vidor, the silent motion picture reached a new peak of dramatic power. The year 1927 brought to a close the era of the silent film, and the years in which, unrestricted by any language barriers, Hollywood and its stars monopolized the picture screens of all the world. Well remembered in the slow development of the talking picture are Dr. Lee DeForest, Theodore Case, and Earl Sponable, the research staffs of RCA, Bell Laboratories engineers Donald Mackenzie and Edward Winter. Well remembered, too, is the fall of 1927, when the late Sam Warner, using Bell Laboratories equipment, produced the most revolutionary picture in all movie history, a film trademarked Vitaphone that was to give to the screen a new dimension and a new power.
Mammy, I'm coming. I hope I didn't make you wait. Mammy, I'm coming. Oh, God, I hope I'm not late. Mammy, don't you know me? It's a little crazy. I'd walk a million miles for one of your smiles, but
With one sound picture, the silent film was forever obsolete. Memorable was the terrifying realism of Universal's All Quiet on the Western Front, greatest of war pictures. Unforgettable in Fox Films' Cavalcade was the restrained use of sound in the recreation of Queen Victoria's funeral.
Five kings riding behind him. Mom, she must have been a very little lady.
Through the talkies, Will Rogers was endeared to millions throughout the world.
Well, all I know is what I read in the paper.
In Zola, Paul Muni demonstrated for all time that the talking picture was unquestionably a modern art.
Before France, before the whole world, I swear that Dreyfus is innocent. By my 40 years of work, by all that I have written to spread the spirit of France, I swear that Dreyfus is innocent. May all that melt away. May my name perish if Dreyfus be not innocent. He is innocent.
So young is Hollywood that many of its earliest pioneers are still active in the industry. Men like Nicholas Skink, able chief of MGM, and his brother Joseph, chairman of the board of 20th Century Fox. Harry Warner, an industry veteran of 36 years, is president of the great Warner Brother Enterprises. Heading Paramount is Barney Balaban, who entered the picture business in 1908. Still a big name in Hollywood, Cecil B. DeMille made his first feature nearly 30 years ago. Back in the studios working with Hal Roach is the great D.W. Griffith. On the stages of 20th century, the veteran laugh makers Buster Keaton and Mack Sennett are at work again. Ever a master showman, wise old Samuel Goldwyn has for an assistant a son of the President of the United States. As overlord of the movies, shrewd diplomat Will Hayes has been steering the industry through its problems and crises for 17 years. Since 1930, the Hayes Production Code, voluntarily adopted by all major producers, has been law to Hollywood's movie makers. To Will Hayes' enforcement officer, genial Joe Breen, has gone the difficult job of making sure that no picture offensive to any race, class, or creed shall reach the screen. For in all its years, Hollywood has pursued one great objective, to please and entertain its public. But the Hollywood of 1939 is finding that the public has new ideas of entertainment. Richly has it rewarded Walt Disney, whose Snow White shattered traditions and box office records and established a new kind of feature, a new kind of movie star. Another tradition breaker is Jack L. Warner, smart and successful producer of a long list of films in which the public has found both entertainment and significance. Meeting the growing demand for important drama, RKO's president, capable George Schaefer, has signed Raymond Massey for the part of Lincoln in the screen version of 1939's Pulitzer Prize play. Representative of Hollywood's growing progressiveness is Walter Wanger, soon to produce Vincent Sheehan's outspoken narrative on present-day problems.
And we have facts to face: wars abroad, social and economic distress at home, threats to democracy everywhere. It is time for us to assume our responsibilities and to deal truthfully and freely with the problems which face us today.
Master of the art of motion picture entertainment is Columbia's ace director-producer Frank Capra. For his newest picture, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, director Capra has drawn on the almost untouched wealth of story material on the national political scene. For John Steinbeck's Grapes of Wrath, 20th Century's Darryl Zanuck has paid $75,000, announced that he will faithfully portray the plight of U.S. migratory workers. And eagerly awaited by moviegoers everywhere is a film in which the world's most feared political figure will be burlesqued by the world's greatest comedian, 50-year-old Charlie Chaplin. But to Hollywood, each new trend is an experiment. For 250 million moviegoers each week pass final judgment on the most powerful medium of expression the world has ever known, an art form as great as any in man's history. Time marches on.
The March of Time.
In no country in the world does the average citizen have a greater money investment in his home than in the United States of America. In the number and variety of devices which make for pleasant and comfortable living, the American home surpasses all others. Every year, resourceful industrialists and gadgeteers bestow upon the housewife more appliances calculated to make her work easy and provide leisure for her and her family. But in spending this leisure, many American families like nothing better than to get away as promptly as possible from home and all its comforts. Number one means of escape from the hearthside is the automobile. Number one nighttime amusement is the motion picture. More than 50 million U.S. citizens, regular moviegoers, pay into the nation's box office nearly $2 billion a year. Sports are another favorite attraction. Gregarious and uproarious and agreeably sedentary for spectators, they are a welcome refuge to the millions of Americans who would rather be out with crowds of their fellows than cooped up at home. More and more, sports in which amateurs can exhibit their prowess have become a social activity for the whole family. And when the last game is over, the last movie out, the American citizen has a final alternative to home in another currently flourishing institution, the nightclub. Throughout the United States, there are about 70,000 night spots, and today their major problem is less how to attract customers than how to make room for all those trying to get in. Perhaps 10,000 of these places are real nightclubs, with a band and entertainers. Attendance at nightclubs across the land tallied up to some 200 million admissions last year, a take of well over $600 million. Over 100 million more went to the government in taxes. Capital of the nation's nightlife is its biggest and richest city, New York, whose 1,000-odd nightclubs range all the way from side street bistros to elegant establishments whose names and nightly doings are familiar to gossip column addicts from coast to coast. Today, New York's nightclubs are enjoying an extravagant boom. Night after night, such opulent pleasure domes as the Monte Carlo are packed to the doors with well-heeled customers, whose spending is on a scale unequaled even in the fabulous days of the roaring 20s. As a social institution, New York's nightlife has come a long way from the Prohibition era with its clip joints and gang warfare. But though it is today a substantial and decorous branch of show business, it still remains a highly speculative industry. Because only one new club in 10 that opens its doors is apt to last out the first season, it is an investment strictly for those who are willing to gamble on a long chance. The bulk of the initial investment goes into decorations, the gaudier the better, to put the customers in the right frame of mind for spending. Kitchen equipment accounts for another big slice of the investment. There has to be a floor show to get the customers in, and it has to be costumed and rehearsed, all of which takes money. Today, every club has to conform to rigid fire laws, to strict licensing and police regulation, including the fingerprinting of all employees, a lingering reminder of the reputation the industry acquired in its gangster-ridden Prohibition days.
Listen, we got every license in the world but the cabaret license, and you'll have to give us a temporary one so we can open up. Now here, boys, we got the health license, we got the building license, and we got the liquor license, and we got rid of the coat room. So all we have to do is get the cabaret license, and we're all set.
To keep a first-class place going takes a big staff, sometimes as many as one employee for every 2 guests. The first one the public meets is the doorman, stationed there to let in the right people and brush off any not up to the tone of the establishment.
Well, we're just going to sit at the bar.
Oh, there's no room at the bar either.
Ah, nuts to you. Come on.
In most clubs, the checkroom girls are hired at a fixed salary by an outside concessionaire. He picks them for the kind of personality that will attract tips, and everything they collect goes into their employer's box, which is securely locked. For the checkroom and other concessions, including the washrooms, a concessionaire may pay $50,000 or more. Some nightclubs are largely financed in this way. Washroom attendants have many devices for extracting sizable tips. The range of personal services they offer is largest in the powder room, which serves not only as a restroom, but as a repair station, a social center, and incidentally as a strategic relay point for gossip.
The fuss she made coming in, just to show off her new mink.
What do you think?
Strictly dyed muskrat from where I sat.
But I saw the Bergdorf label.
Look, dear, anyone can sew in a Bergdorf label.
Social arbiter of the nightclub is the head waiter, who separates the sheep from the goats. To celebrities and known socialites, he assigns the best tables. Good-looking, well-turned-out customers get next consideration. But folding money is the surest leveler of barriers. With run-of-the-mill, non-tipping customers, the head waiter who is out to make money has ways of dealing, beginning with cold disapproval and working up to polite extortion. For every nightclub has its Siberia, the outer fringe of tables jammed into odd corners, remote from the floor show, where traffic is heaviest, noise is the loudest, and the barflies apt to be most obnoxious. At these tables, thrifty customers, or those unaware of the time-honored ways of New York nightlife, quickly learn the importance of taking care of the head waiter.
See if you can find us a decent table somewhere.
Thank you, sir. I shall do my best.
By such pressure, a really hard-boiled head waiter can squeeze out up to $1,000 a week in tips when business is booming. The ordinary waiter cannot hope to rival these earnings, but his tips average 20%, and since prices are not low, he can count on anywhere from $100 to $150 a week. The waiter who knows how to put on a good show can increase his tips and at the same time help the club by distracting attention from the quality of the food. For in many nightclubs, food is apt to be indifferent at best. But there are some New York night spots which take great pride in their cuisine. Among them is the 21 Club, nationally famous since its speakeasy days when it was known as Jack and Charlie's. A restaurant rather than a nightclub, 21 is best known as an after-dark resort for Manhattan and Hollywood notables. Almost as well known today as their more distinguished customers are 21's hosts, the ubiquitous Burns and Crindler brothers. Any night in the week, they are more than likely to be entertaining a dozen or so front-page personalities in their dining room. People like Elliot Roosevelt and his wife, the former Faye Emerson of the movies, and Hollywood's spectacular Orson Welles. 21 has no floor show and no orchestra to attract its clientele as nightclubs do. Heart of 21 is its kitchen, through which nightlife tourists are occasionally conducted with pride by host Mac Crindler.
A restaurant and nightclub kitchens are very much the same in organization, no matter what difference in the quality of the food they put out. As far as equipment goes, our kitchen is one of the best in town. But what really makes it is the staff, headed up by the maître de cuisine. He is responsible for the planning and for the quality of the food prepared by the men under him. In our place, there are about 20 of them, chefs, cooks, and assistants, some for roasts, others for salads, and so on. Chefs work under terrific pressure, but we know it's good for our cooks to be kept on their toes by the gourmets of our clientele, even though, as artists, they may occasionally react with a little temperament.
Toast Bernadotte on the fish.
Bernadotte? All right.
It's for Mr. Curtis. He says don't get the sauce too brown and plenty of hazelnuts.
Maybe he'd like to come in here and make it himself, huh?
But in the average nightclub, as distinguished from 21, the bar is the thing. For the profit on liquor is about 70% and accounts for much of the income of the place. A skillful bartender protects his boss's profits by mixing his drinks without waste. Chiseling by the use of inferior or cut liquor, however, may cost a bar its license. Most nightclub patrons stick to the standard hard drinks. But in places such as El Morocco, which cater to the more urbane international clientele, there is a steady demand for fine wines and liqueurs. El Morocco's proprietor, John Perona, takes great pride in his collection of vintage wines.
Well, in a dinner and supper club like this, a large part of our investment is tied up in wines and liquor. Our list still includes imported wines and alcohols of the best years because we had the foresight to stock up to capacity before the war began. Storing wines is a delicate problem. Some bottles should be rotated slightly at intervals. Others should not be touched until served. All of them are helped by strictly controlled temperature, colder for champagne than for still wine. The sommelier or wine steward, with his traditional chain and key and tasting cup, runs the cellar. Years of experience have made him a connoisseur, and nothing is added to our collection until he has tasted and approved it.
But more than food or drink, the show is what makes or breaks a nightclub. In the most famed of all the clubs, the Stork, the customers themselves are the entertainment. The Stork is jammed nightly with people to whom a glimpse of Jinx Falkenberg and Cliff Edwards means more than any floor show. Nightlife at the Stork Club gets reported in detail by many nationally syndicated columnists like Leonard Lyons.
Long-established places with big reputations, such as this, don't need a floor show. People come to see and be seen. To Sherman Billingsley, the proprietor, a house full of celebrities like Morse Hart and Otto Preminger, Paul Douglas, Earl Wilson, Bert Flower, and Charlie Butterworth is worth more than any performers he could hire. At the Stork Club, the Cub Room is set aside for celebrities and favorite clients. But most clubs on my nightly beat depend on their show to bring in the customers. And there are as many kinds as there are tastes. Big, popular-priced places like the 400 draw the young crowd. They want bandsmen like Jimmy Dorsey and room to dance. Show places round Times Square. The Zanzibar, for instance, draw the people to whom an evening on Broadway is a gala event. For about what they paid for their pair of theater tickets, these big places give them supper and a full review with drawing cards like the ink spots.
To get to heaven, 'cause I know that if I got to heaven, I'd find you.
The East Side spots, the Embassy and places like that, are smaller and more expensive. They draw a sophisticated audience which goes heavily for dancers like Greb and Lober. Broadway crowd, there are comics like La Martinique's Danny Thomas, who gets his laughs by a fast give and take with the audience, and even by kidding the institution of the nightclub.
Multi-millionaires always occupy space on the dance floor. Got nothing but money, these people. Loaded. Then come the semi-millionaires. Those of you who for a while thought you had a ringside table. You're laughing. Come somebody richer than you, you're the second row. Quick, like that. Table drops from the ceiling. Then come the middle class. And the peasants in the back.
For slightly higher brows, there are retreats like the two cafe societies, uptown and downtown. They present intimate artists like plaintive Susan Reed, who sings old ballads to the tinkle of a zither.
Sweet Molly Malone, and she wheeled a wheelbarrow through the streets broad and narrow, crying, caw-caws and mouse-songs, alive, alive, oh.
To ensure against the shortage of name performers, Cafe Society's proprietor, Barney Josephson, digs up promising new talent in out-of-the-way places here and abroad, and patiently builds his discoveries into prominence.
Now, in this country, we like our songs underplayed. You give them too much.
In developing his newest find, a Paris nightclub star, Moon de Revel, Barney only had to teach her a few added graces and adapt her Parisian manner to the American taste. Barney had gowns run up especially for her, to underscore her Guadalupean charm and give her glamour where it would do the most good. When Barney has an artist ready, he gives the last touches to her show at the dress rehearsal. Now the impresario has done what he could for his protege. From here on out, it's up to the performer and the public.
Your walk is just the way I want it. You're going to be a wow.
What is it? Oh, wow.
You'll find out. Okay, fellas. Simmers, spot Tony.
Chocolat la dompée, c'est sa jeune fille aimée. Quand vanille parfumée, ranime mes cœurs, yo yo yo. Nini, mi vanille, la Guadeloupe café vanille. Nini, mi vanille, toute rose vanille, qu'a poussé.
In Greenwich Village and on 52nd Street, jazz bands like Eddie Condon's dish out for hepcats the genuine tailgate and gut bucket. On the fringes of New York nightlife, there are always a few freak places which get discovered somehow and do a big business while they last. The current and apparently durable fad is a raucous resort on the old Bowery called Sammy's Bowery Follies. For years, this was a hangout purely for the local aristocracy until the uptown carriage trade found it. Nowadays, the charter members can hardly find elbow room in the place. So eager and many are the tourists.
Though the post-war nightclub boom will hardly last forever, the U.S. nightclub as an institution appears to be here to stay. For on Broadway or on Main Street, it provides an outlet for the American's eternal restless need for an occasional escape from the blessings of home sweet home. Time marches on.